Hi guys, after sitting all winter I came out to find my bike had developed a static oil leak, meaning that it's been dripping oil over the winter, had a big puddle under it, and having a closer look, it looks like the countershaft seal is leaking, but I'm sure that shifter seal probably isn't in great shape either, so I'm going to go ahead and change both seals out today for this video. This is a 2007 KX250 two-stroke, of course. I've owned it since it was new. So it's about 15 years old now, and it's high time that we change out these seals. So let's get started. And just to give you a closer look of what my engine looks like and the oil leak, I have a skid plate under here, of course, and it's just full of oil. So this thing's probably been dripping oil for a while, but it's now showing itself very clearly. It's time to get this all cleaned up and changed out. As far as what parts I'm using for the shifter seal, I went with the Kawasaki, the OEM part. There's the part number there if you need it. You can order obviously from your dealer or a place like Rocky Mountain ATV or Bike Bandit. You can order OEM parts. Just a small seal here. And for the countershaft seal, I went with the All Balls kit because it comes with everything you need and it makes it easy. So it comes with the rubber seal. It comes with the O-rings for the shaft. It also comes with the, I guess this is a collar that goes on the shaft that the seal rides on there. And it also comes with a new snap ring for hold your sprocket on, which is nice because sometimes those are easily damaged when you remove them. Again, you can order from Rocky Mountain, or actually I just went to the All Balls website, found the part number I needed, and then found the part number on eBay for a little bit better deal there, but that's what I'm doing. Okay, so for the tools today, you just need some very basic tools. So you guys probably already have all this stuff. Need a couple screwdrivers, a flat and a Phillips. I needed an 8mm wrench or socket, and actually a couple wrenches as well to get my shifter removed. To get the snap ring off my countershaft, I used some snap ring pliers. You could get by with needle nose if you didn't have those, but makes your life easier. Some thread locker for your shifter bolt to put it back on. I used a 15mm deep well to drive the shifter seal in place. To remove the shifter seal, you might need a tiny drill bit and a small sheet metal screw. All this stuff is shown in the process, of course. For the countershaft seal, it's bigger, so I used a large, this is a 1 1/8, but a pretty large size socket or whatever you have that's the same diameter as your seal. A little bit bigger sheet metal screw to pull out your old seal with. I used a pick to get the O-rings off of the countershaft, and just a punch to kind of press them back into place a little bit instead of using a screwdriver. And then a small hammer to tap in the seals, and of course some pliers to pull the seals out with. So pretty basic stuff. Okay, the first step, if you happen to have a dirty bike, obviously go ahead and wash your bike first. You don't want to deal with a bunch of dirt and mud falling in where it shouldn't go. But I'm going to go ahead and remove this sprocket guard here with an 8mm socket. And I'm going to tuck these hoses kind of out of the way here. Just going to push them up out of the way somewhere. There you go. Okay, next step, I'm going to go ahead and remove my chain. I'm going to go ahead and take my master link off here. Just going to drive it off with a punch or a screwdriver. There it goes. Now I can go ahead and drive out the pins. And there it goes. And if you have an O-ring chain, make sure not to lose your little O-rings. They might be stuck on the back side of your chain here. Yep, don't want to lose those babies. Now that your master link's off, you can go ahead and pull your chain off. All right, I've got my chain out of the way. Time to get this countershaft snap ring off. Okay, on my bike, the only thing holding on the sprocket is a snap ring. So all I need is some snap ring pliers, and I'll take that off. And if you don't have another new snap ring, be extremely careful with this because it can get bent very easily. and you don't want that snap ring to fly off while you're riding. It'll leave you on the trail somewhere. It's best practice to get a kit with a new one or get yourself a new snap ring. So I'm just gonna gently take this off. Even though I have a new one, I like to keep my old one in the toolbox. You never know when you might need another. So there it is. Now the sprocket should pull right off. Okay, next thing we're going to have to do is clean the heck out of this area. Looks like mine's been leaking for a while and I probably didn't know it, so it's pretty nasty. So get yourself some spray contact cleaner. If you don't have that, you can use rubbing alcohol. I'm actually using some acetone just because it helps, you know, get that grease and oil off of there, and just really go to town and get that area clean. I'm going to go ahead and lean my bike over a little bit against the workbench or against the table or whatever you have back there, just so that I can get a little bit better visibility, and maybe if there's any oil in there, it won't leak out as much. Okay, so now I'm going to have a look at my new seal and my new kit here, just to have a look at how big it is and how it's made. And it's just a rubber seal. So when I go to, there's no metal edges or anything. So when I go to remove my old seal, all I'm going to need to do is get yourself a sheet metal screw of some kind with some pretty coarse threads. You want it to be obviously narrower in diameter than the seal, and you're just going to start it in there. You don't need to drill a pilot hole or anything like that because it's just rubber, soft rubber. So just get a screwdriver and we'll start it in the old seal, of course. Once it's started, we'll grab it with some pliers, the screw that is, and pull the seal right out of there. Some seals are a little bit more stubborn or maybe have some metal edges. You may have to drill a tiny pilot hole in order to get your screw started, but usually you don't need to do that. And the other way to get this out is if you have access to get a seal puller underneath the lip here, you can take your seal puller and then just pop the seal out. One thing to point out before we get to it is this collar, it does matter which way this thing goes on. One side is smooth, you can see all the way across, and the other side has a little bit of a lip here. That little bit of a lip is where the O-rings ride. So this O-ring obviously stretches out over that shaft, and this collar will kind of seat right against these O-rings. So make sure that you put it on the right way. If you put it on backwards, it's just not going to work out for you. I think I can just start my sheet metal screw right in the center here of the rubber. If I can get it to bite a couple of threads, really that's all I need. Something like that. The screw starts easily right into the rubber, and I think that should give me what I need to grab onto with some pliers and pull that seal out of there. Let's give it a shot. Yep. It's starting to come out. I don't know if you can see that, but yep, there it goes. Pulled it right out, and there it is. Next thing I can do is go ahead and pull that spacer or that collar off. Might be able to use your fingers. If not, grab some pliers, give it a little twist. Should come right out of there. There you go. And it came out. It's pretty grimy. Okay, a little bit of a close-up here of the shaft area, and where you can see this O-ring. You get yourself a pick or a little screwdriver. You can see that O-ring right there. It's just right on the shaft, and that's where that collar kind of rides on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull that out. My kit came with a new one. Trying to do this one-handed while I hold my phone here. And there it is. So keep that to the side. Yeah, there are actually 2 O-rings on my bike here, hence why the kit came with 2. we go. Got them both out. Now I'm going to take some time and just clean that up around there and make sure I don't have any grime that's going to go down in the engine there. Okay, I've tried to clean up in here really well. I've even cleaned out all the grooves in the shaft, because remember, you're going to be putting that O-ring right over that, and you don't want that O-ring to kind of catch grime and shove it down on where it sort of seats. So get in there and get it clean all the way around, and if you can, get it clean down there right where the O-rings will sit. Okay, let's get these new O-rings put on there. I did go ahead and wet them just a little bit with some clean engine oil, just so that they kind of slide on a little better. Be careful not to tear your new O-ring, and don't push on it with a flat screwdriver if you can. Avoid it, that would be great. You don't want to cut this thing or nick it, because that's just a path for a leak. So let's try to be careful and stretch this on there. And then we're just going to try to push it on as best we can. Okay, and I do have like a flat punch. It's flat on the end. Probably won't cut this O-ring like a screwdriver might. So I'm just gonna push it on there where it goes. And remember, this bike has 2 O-rings, so don't forget to put both of the O-rings on, because if you do forget that, you'll have a leak. So I've already wet this one down too. I'm just gonna put it on. Same thing, I'm just gonna push it into place there. And that is seated, looks to me like it's where it goes. And O-rings are in good shape. To drive your new seal on, take your new seal and find yourself something that's the same diameter as the seal. I'm using a socket. It happens to be a 1 1/8 socket. I had to use my large, like 3/4 inch size socket set to find one that fits. So if you don't have a 3/4 socket set around, either borrow one from your neighbor, or you can use anything that's round and that happens to fit the seal. So you can find a piece of pipe that's nice and flat and not burred up, or anything really, an old bearing or whatever you have to kind of drive this in. You want it to be about the same diameter. You want it to be not too big. Mine goes inside of the hole in the case there, so I know that it's not too big. You know, it's not going to hit my engine case. And you just want to drive it barely flat, flush. You just want the seal to be flush against the case there. So pay attention to your old seal when you remove it, so you kind of get an idea of where this new one should seat. So I'm going to go ahead and get it started with my fingers, and you might be able to push it in with your fingers a little bit, or even all the way, really. So just work it evenly around. It won't take much to get it to seat right. All right, that's in there plenty good enough, almost a little too much. But it ought to work for me. Be very careful driving this in. This thing is just rubber, and it won't take much coercion to get it to go in there. As you can see, I've kind of got mine in a little too far on the right side here. But it's not bad, so I think it'll be fine. Okay, next step is to just put your new collar in place. Again, like I showed you before, it does make a difference, on my bike at least, which way this goes. So if you'll look at the back side, there's a small lip on one side. The other side does not have that. So the little lip goes up to the inside of the engine, and rides against those O-rings on the shaft here. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure it's clean, make sure you're clean there, and just kind of press it into place. Shouldn't take a lot of effort. There it goes. Seems to me like it's on there. Let's give it a little bump, make sure it's on. And it is on. All right. Okay, I'm pretty much done with the countershaft seal. All I need to do is put my sprocket back on and my C-clip that holds the sprocket on and the chain, and I'm good to go. But because I'm also doing the shifter seal today, I'm gonna go ahead and leave the sprocket off just for visibility and access while I'm doing the shifter seal. So I'll jump right into that. If you wanna go right back to the sprocket installation, just check the video. I should have it indexed for you. Before you remove your shifter, go ahead and clean it off a little bit and take some chalk or a Sharpie or whatever you have and kind of make a mark across it so you know where the shifter kind of goes back on. You don't want you to put your shifter back on and find out it's too low or too high. So I'm just going to mark it across here. With some chalk. And kind of be careful with that chalk because it could clean off. You know, you don't want to wipe it off. Next is get yourself an 8mm wrench or socket and go to town as far as getting this bolt out. I have a skid plate under my bike, and that makes it hard to get through the little access hole under the frame, but if, normally you just take a socket with an extension and you can do that, but I'm going to try to use this ratchet wrench here. So I'm going to have to go the old-fashioned way with just a wrench. That's the only thing I can get on there. To take that bolt totally out of there, the shifter ought to now pull right off like it just did. Okay, so here's a closer up view of that. You can tell how nasty and grimy it is. Again, this seal was leaking, and probably my shift shaft seal is leaking a little bit too. So anyway, go ahead and clean this all up really nice around that shaft. Okay, here we are with the new shift seal. Again, I went with the OEM part. Here's my Kawasaki part number right there, if you have the same model of bike that I do. But this seal is made a little differently than the countershaft seal. It's a little beefier. It's it's metal around the outside here. It's also metal on the face. So we're going to have to get the old one out, we're probably going to have to drill a small pilot hole through the face of the metal here. Of course, we want to stay away from the outside edge where we could hit the engine case. And we want to use a really small drill bit and just go through right in this area. Once we get a pilot hole, we'll again use a sheet metal screw and start that screw in the old seal, and the screw head will give us something to pull on with our pliers to get that out of there. You can try a seal puller if you can get it in there as well. That would work. But again, this seal is made differently. There is a little spring on the inside here to put some tension on that rubber there. But let's go give it a shot. All right, so before I drill my hole, I'm gonna try to use this center punch and get a little spot picked out to drill through. Okay, we're just gonna drill through the seal now. All right. Okay, once you have the pilot hole drilled through, you can get a sheet metal screw and use a screwdriver or a drill and just get it started a couple times. Stay away from the engine case, obviously. All right, my screw is started, and I'm gonna go ahead and try to pull on that with some pliers, see if we can't get that out. Hopefully that screw holds in there and doesn't rip out of the hole. That's holding good. That's in there pretty tight. Okay, so my first attempt didn't work, so trying again. I already drilled another pilot hole, a second one down here. I'm just going to try the same technique, and hopefully I loosened it a hair at least with that first attempt, and this works this time. So let's try it. Put the screw in. All right, I think it's in there. I'm gonna try to pull it out again and see what happens. Try to be careful, bust my knuckles on my foot peg here. Oh, there it goes, and it came out that time. So you can see the screw held its own that time around. Did not work the first time around, but I gave it a shot, and if it doesn't work on the first pilot hole you drill, try a second one, try a third one if you can, and it should come on out of there. If you could get a seal puller on it, that would be easy as well. I do have a seal puller, but I could not get it in there with my skid plate on there and whatnot. So anyway, old seal's out. Here's my new seal, here's the old one. Again, my first pilot hole didn't work, the screw kind of pulled out. I tried it again, just down, you know, a little bit more, and it did work. Pulled her right out of there. I didn't get great video of that, but anyway, it worked. And if you struggle on a first hole, try another one, try a third one if you need. Find something that you can use to drive it back in place. I found that a deep well 15 millimeter works, seems to be the right size, and since it's deep well, it'll go over that shifter shaft, and you want to go ahead and just clean up the area where it goes, then we'll drive it into place, and we'll make sure that it stays nice and flush with the engine case. All right, so we're going to take a second and clean this up nice. Get the shaft clean. Put a rag in there and just kind of wipe out any grime. And you'll notice that my scribe mark, my Sharpie mark on my shifter is pretty much gone. I can barely see it. So be careful of that. You want to clean that off. So I can barely see it here. So I am going to go ahead and mark it again. Okay, we're going to go ahead and drive the new seal in place. I put a little fresh engine oil, clean engine oil on it just to make it kind of slide on easier onto the shaft. You want to be careful getting it on there. Kind of go gentle around those splines. There we go. And make sure you drive it just the same as the countershaft seal. You want to make sure you drive it on there straight. You don't want to drive it in too far. It just needs to be flush, or even just a little bit before it gets flush. Even make sure you pay attention to how it was installed there before you remove the old one, to give yourself an idea. And I'm just going to go slow, use a small hammer. Don't That's getting pretty close. And just go slow, don't be too aggressive, don't be in a hurry. You don't get really 2 tries. You really have to get it right the first time, or you're gonna be buying another new seal. Okay, I think that's on there really well, nice and flush and even all around there. Go ahead and put our shifter back on. If you clean it up, just clean up the back and make sure you don't wipe off your index mark. Or if you have wiped it off on accident, just put it back where you can best guess, and then sit on the bike and make sure you like where the position is and adjust it until you like it there. Okay, so I've got some blue medium strength thread locker, and I've already put some on the end of my bolt. So I'm gonna go ahead and insert that bolt and get it tightened up. Now that my seals are replaced, my shifter's back on, I'm gonna go ahead and put the countershaft sprocket back on. There we go. And it should press on enough to get that, so where you can see the groove where the C-clip goes. Okay, go ahead and put your C-clip back on. I'm gonna go ahead and reuse my other one. It's only been on and off once, so I'm confident it will be fine. Get yourself some snap ring pliers to make this job a lot easier and put it on there. Just like that. And we will go ahead and hit it with the screwdriver all around here. Make sure that snap ring is seated down in that groove on the shaft. And mine looks nice and seated all around there. My sprocket's in good shape. I mean, it's mounted properly. The snap ring is on there. So I'm good to go. Now I'm good to put my chain back on. So go ahead and feed your chain back around here where it goes, around your sprocket here and back towards the rear of the bike. All right, go ahead and make sure you have your O-rings in place if you do have an O-ring chain. And let's get this master link started from the back side. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Okay, we'll go ahead and put our O-rings on this side here, and then put our other side of our link on. You're gonna want to squeeze that down really good. Squeeze it really nice, so give yourself plenty of room for that master link clip to go on. And when you put your clip on, like, you want the opening of the clip to point towards the rear. That way when your chain's rotating around, if you happen to pick up a stick or something like that, it's not gonna accidentally force your clip off as your chain moves. So go ahead and put it on. That's why you put it on with the opening to the back. Put it on there and squeeze it on. Just like so, and our chain's all good to go. All right, lastly, we'll go ahead and put our sprocket guard back on, and both the metal guard and the plastic one here. Then we'll be done. Remember to tuck your hoses back where they go, down around the engine and into this kind of guide, rubber guide here. And I think we're all done. Hope you all liked that video. It's kind of a realistic approach to changing out these seals on your own instead of taking it to a shop. Didn't go too bad, not too bad of a job at all, especially if you're only doing one of those seals. So yeah, take your time, be patient, be careful when you're driving those seals back in, and have a good time. And part of the fun of riding dirt bikes and quads and whatnot is getting to work on them as well, and you kind of get that satisfaction of doing a job yourself. So, all right, good luck. Give me a thumbs up if you like this. Thank you.